You are listening to the Power and Prose podcast, a platform that serves as an active advocate for Black women to embody their authentic voice. Power and Prose is a space of healing and an invitation to profess the power you possess. Come along on the journey and let's get into the show. What's up, cool kids? You are tuned in to another episode of the Power and Prose podcast. What's good? How are y'all feeling? I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling I don't know how I'm feeling this morning. I'm feeling better. I will say last week, if I had to sum it up, it would be kind of blah. Like I got things done, I had fun on the weekends, but overall, I feel like I was kind of going through the motions a little bit and trying to push through that feeling of going through the motions, but maybe not doing it as successfully as I imagined. I don't know. It was kind of off. I went to LA and Chicago in the same week. And then last week was the first full week that I was at home. And so I think I was just trying to get back in my rhythm. I had no food in my refrigerator. So I was like, I need to order groceries. Like I just had things to do. But I'm being intentional this week and I have an accountability partner with me to get back on track. And we started a new month. We are officially in August. And so there are some things that I'm just like, yo, you need to be thinking about this. Like you haven't thought about it in a while, or you have, but let's up the ante a little bit, you know? And so I've been running. Y'all know that. I've been running, but I done took some time off. So my cycle came, stopped running. I was like, I need a break. And then I went out of town. So I low key haven't ran in like 2 weeks until this morning. Shout out to my girl Ari for the motivation. And I got food, like, like I've been cooking, like I'm trying to just be conscious, like, what are you doing? What are the things that you enjoy doing? And how can you get back to that? How can you reestablish your routine? So that's just a little cool kid check-in of where I am, how I'm feeling. And I want to hear from y'all. How are y'all feeling? Let me know if there's anything that the Power and Pros community can give you guys during this season. I want to be sure that I'm being intentional about providing that. And so if there's anything you can think of, let your girl know. If you're doing a cool Bible plan, share that with me, please, because I love, one, I'm always doing a plan, but two, I really think it's interesting when either we're doing the same type of plan, like it has the same kind of theme. It just reveals where we all are collectively at this time. But then it also is just like, wait, I didn't even know this plan was a thing and I need this. So if you're doing any cool plans, you can add me on the Bible app. I'm Destiny Bonds there. Or you can just email me at powerandpros@gmail.com and send me an invite. So without further ado, let's get into the pros prompts of the week and then we'll get into it. The pros prompts for this week is something that I did. It brought me so much life when I wrote the other day. And so I want to share it with you guys. And I simply began by writing down words that I kept hearing. There were words that I watched a sermon, then I watched a YouTube video, and then I started reading in the Bible on my own. And there were just words that I feel like, I was like, okay, now, like, what's happening? These are different resources, different folk, and I'm getting some reoccurring themes. And so I wanted to write those down so I remember, but then also so I can try to see what are the links, like what's happening? How can I make sense of this? And so I began with that. So, first challenge, write the words that you keep hearing or themes. If you've had the same dream over and over, write that. Like whatever reoccurring themes are starting to kind of pop up, even if it's been one day, just one day where you feel like, all right, now I was saying it at 9 o'clock and I'm saying it again at 3 o'clock. Write it down. There's a reason that that's happening for you, but sometimes we have to put it on paper to get what that reason is. And so that's the first thing. And then after that, I kind of ignored those things. I just needed to pin them. After that, I began to write praises. And so I said, I want to take time this morning to praise God for. And then it's just a bullet list. Like I just started writing things. Okay. And as I began to do that, the last thing that I wrote, I had so much gratitude that I ended my praise moment with, I need to make space for him. That's what I said. Right before then, actually, I said, I feel that in order for a shifting to take place, I need to come into full agreement with what he is doing. I need to make space for him. That's what I said. So then after that, on the next page, I started writing down all these things I have to do. Like, how am I going to make space for God? How am I going to come into full agreement with what he's doing in my life, with what he's doing with PMP, with what he's doing with the people around me? Like, how am I going to do that? And so I started writing down, like, I have to talk to fellow believers. I have to praise. I have to reduce my screen time drastically. Y'all, I be on my phone. Like, I don't know what's going on. I have to constantly come to God. I have to make sacrifices. I have to feed my spirit. Like, I just started writing these things because you need reminders of how you can be your best self for God and with God. You need reminders of that. Sometimes we just get up and we know the routine. I make my coffee, I run, I take a shower, I pray, I turn on some music, I go to work, I do work, I come home, I cook, I talk to my friends maybe, I watch TV maybe, I scroll on my phone, I set my alarm, I go to bed, I'll do it all over, right? And so we get in a routine of that. And there are things that'll come up in our routine, but most of us get in a routine and that's it. What we have to do is be intentional and relentless and reset how we can be our best self for God. It's beneficial. It helps us to do kind of a gut check. Where am I right now? How am I feeding myself? What am I doing? And you can look back and realize I have been doing some things, or God has sustained me through some things. And that also helps you to give him praise, to express your gratitude. And all of that brings us back to he's going to give us something and we go and do it. And so it's a constant, there's still a cycle or a rhythm, but it's a little bit different when God's in the middle of it versus it's always falling off and then trying to get back to him. When he's at the center, it changes everything. And so, one, prose prompt, write down some things that you are continuously hearing, seeing. If you're constantly feeling a thing, like you should be doing this thing, or you should keep checking in on this person, or you should watch this certain thing, right? All whatever those things are that keep popping up, they're not popping up for no reason. You're not dwelling on it for no reason. It's not in your heart for no reason. So I wanted to take note of that. And then when you write things and you date them, then when you go back, you can see the growth. You can see if it comes up again, and you can compare the seasons. Like, there's so many things. So write those things down. And then just write some praises, write some gratitude. We have made it to the 8th month of the year. We've made it through some things. There's so much more, right? That we're going through. There's something that you might be going through right now, and you feel alone, you feel scared. We are going to get to that. Trust me. And God is going to sustain us through it all. But part of that sustaining and part of that recognizing the power that he has and the power that he's given us in these times is expressing our gratitude. So be sure that you take the time to do that today, not tomorrow. Write it today. It could be the very thing that literally shifts the day for you. So make the time to intentionally write those things out. Okay, y'all. I had a thought. So first of all, August, I don't know about y'all. August kind of came out of nowhere for me. Like, I kept seeing that the dates in July were moving, but August wasn't supposed to be here yet, in my opinion. My sister's birthday was on July 30th, and I was like, wait, it's your birthday already? Like, it just, I was there for each day of July, mind you, but I just feel like it got sprung on me. Like, it was like, and I was like, like I wasn't ready for it to come. And so on August 1st, which was a Monday, everybody is like, happy August, whoop wop, whoop wop. It's gonna be a great month. This is the month of rebirth. This is the month of refresh. I'm gonna feel good in the hood. Like, everybody is feeling good. And I was like, not as August 1st. Like, I just couldn't even fully grasp the date, yet alone the feeling and the association that I wanted to have with it. And so, what helped me to not spiral into a moment of anxiety was actually thinking about this sermon that I watched a little, maybe 2 weeks ago. I shared it in the Prose and Praise pages with you guys, and it was called He Won't See It Coming. And in that sermon, Pastor Darius Daniels was talking about David and how David was being chosen to be king. And he has 7 brothers. And all seven of his brothers were considered to be the next king before him. He wasn't even brought into the conversation of like who's it going to be, who's capable, who's able. David was not considered. And yet, David was the very king that was anointed and appointed. Okay. And so in the sermon, Pastor Darius was like, um, seven is a number of completion. Seven is supposed to be like, oh, this is the line, this is where it's marked. Seven, the number seven is wholeness, it's completion, it is finished, it is done. And yet, David has seven brothers, meaning he's the eighth one, and he was the one that was chosen for the crown. And he was saying that God makes exceptions. God makes exceptions for his people. If it's for you, it's for you. And I think a lot of times we think about what's stacked up against us. We think about numerology, we think about astrology, we think about all of these things, our family history, our own history, things that we've done and messed up in the past, prayers that we prayed and we haven't seen them yet, all of these things. And I think what I learned in listening to that was that God makes exceptions. It's part of his character. It's a thing that he does. And it's something that we can count on him to continue to do. And it's not by happenstance. It's not just a phenomenon of like, oh, well, I guess I skipped the line this time. It's like, nope, that spot was always destined for you. Now, I love me some Brandy, y'all. I love me some Brandy. She's got the vocal Bible, but in the actual Bible, what Brandy say and what the words say is a little bit different, okay? And so Brandy has a song and it's called Almost Doesn't Count, okay? And almost doesn't count. And I love saying that. When somebody falls short, I'm like, almost don't count, babe. Like, you know what I mean? However, I believe that God recognizes all of our efforts. If you are striving for something and you're supposed to do it 4 days and you do something 3 days, God's like, look at you. You made it 3 days. Last time you only made it a day and a half. Like, we get so tripped up about the actual goal, like, you know, the goals that we make up, that I'm not even sure all of our goals or God's like thought of us. But then he also knows our entire life, our entire history, and where we're going to go. He knows our future, right? And so as we're walking along this path, as we're doing life with God, we are constantly focused on our shortcomings. If we can be real, we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people's successes and how can we garner those same things? Will we accomplish those same things and all of that when God is just right here? He's looking at you and he's looking at the word he told you and he's looking at how you have pressed forward and how little or big that pressing is. He's like, look at her, look at him go. And it brings him joy to see it. And he's rooting you on. He got some pom poms and he's like, woo! Like he's like cheering you every step of the way. He's in the stands cheering you on, and then he's on the field working with you at the same time. He's in your mind speaking affirmations to you at the same time. He's speaking to your community around you so they can pour into you, so they can pray over you at the same time. He's giving you music. Shout out to Beyonce's Renaissance, okay? That you can dance to, that can get the edge off. You can release while you're going through at the same time. He's orchestrating all the things so that they work out for your good. He makes exceptions. And I think that we think about somebody else because we are comparing people. We'll look at other people who try to do something and we'll be like, it ain't work out for them. It's not going to work out for me. Or if she couldn't figure that out, she has a bigger network or her people got more money or she has more followers, then how am I going to do that? I have felt that. Let me tell y'all something. Let me be real for a minute. I want to launch merch for this community. I believe I'm on days when I'm feeling a little off or days when I'm feeling good too. I have some shirts that have words on them and I wear them because it just makes me feel good. There's a shirt that I have that talks about how you can't support the culture and not support the people. And it's talking about blackness and the appropriation of black culture. If I'm feeling blackity black, I'll wear it. If there's another death in the world, I'll wear it. Like if I'm a good day or a bad day, that shirt speaks to me. And so I pull that thing out the closet every time. There is a shirt that just has a cross on it. And if I'm having a day where I'm like, Jesus is my homeboy, woo, I'll wear it. And if I'm like, girl, you haven't talked to God in 2 weeks, I'll wear it. Because it gets me, every time I look in the mirror, every time I walk around the house, it's reminding me like, oh, don't forget, like you wearing this cross on your chest. You got to foster a relationship with the Father, like tap back in. And so I know the power of Prose, right? And Prose can exist on apparel. And so I want to marry those two worlds together. And I have some sayings that I haven't seen in the stores that I want on apparel so I can wear, and I think it'll benefit y'all as well. And so that's a goal that I have, right? However, I be in my head. I be looking at other people's stuff. I be like, I don't know. And there's other people who I've seen them have fails, or there's been like problems with manufacturers or things like that. And I'm like, well, if they can't figure it out and they got more money, or this their full-time job, or yada yada yada, like they have a bigger team to help them, all of these things, then I'm not gonna be able to have this apparel. Like I'm not gonna be able to do it. And that's just the real tea. Those are the lies that I have allowed to take root in my mind. And when I think about David, it reminded me, God makes exceptions. I could be the exception with the money that I got in my bank account, with the community that I have, with the resources available to me, with the city that I'm in. I might be using the same manufacturers as somebody that I'm talking about that I done seen post on Facebook or post on Instagram that they, oh, are my bad. Production has been stopped. And for me, production might keep on be steady flowing, right? But I won't know if I don't go forward and try. And so I want to come to y'all this morning with what's been on my heart for me, what I'm struggling with, and remind you that God makes exceptions. I went to the grocery store and it had a little thing at the checkout that says $5 for card transactions, no exceptions. That's what it say on the thing. I had the lady ring up my stuff. I was kind of calculating in my head, and I was like, okay, when she add tax, I'm gonna be at the $5. We get there, girl, I was at $4.76. And I was like, I'm gonna have to grab some M&Ms or something because I'm not at the $5 and it's no exceptions. Like I have to do it, right? Oh girl, I was like, oh, I'll be right back. I'll get something for the difference. That's what I said. And she's like, oh no, you good. Oh, you good. Babe, that was an exception, right? There was a rule, there was an established order, and I got to go around that thing and it worked out for my benefit. I didn't have to spend more money than I intended to spend. And so I want to remind all of us that God makes exceptions. He's the God of exceptions. He's the God of exceptions. That's why you even exist. There is something that is specifically and divinely for you that ain't for nobody else. And we try to explain those things, and that's why they don't feel natural. That's why they don't feel we get intimidated about them. But as soon as you really calculate it in your mind, as soon as you let it take root and take hold, the truth that God makes exceptions, and not only does he just make exceptions for his benefit, he makes them for your benefit. It'll change how you do everything. Like God makes exceptions, and you are an exception. You're an exception to the rule. Everybody else got to stand in line. You're able to go around. Everybody else has to wait longer for their passport, and for your upcoming trip, boom, it was in the mail quickly. Everybody else doesn't reach the numbers that you've reached for the goal that you have set for yourself and exceeded them in a timeline that you were able to reach it at. Everybody else ain't recording a podcast before work this morning, perhaps, you know what I'm saying? But here I am doing it, exception. Everybody else ain't gonna be able to do it how you're gonna do it, and that's okay. It's intentional. There's been an exception made for you. You have to believe that. You have to believe it, and it's going to feel crazy. If you speak it to other people, they're going to remind you of what the rule is. They're going to say, No exceptions. That's not how my cousin did it. That's not how your mama did it. That's not how you've done it in the past. You've tried for the very thing that you're going for and it didn't work. But this time, let me tell you, it'll be different because you're different. You have grown. You've got more wisdom. You've got more knowledge. You know more people. You've experienced more things. You've garnered a different feeling and relationship with God. You've prayed more. You've prayed different. You've been more authentic. You have done different things than the previous time that you were up at bat and was ready to swing. And so last time, maybe you striked out, and that's cool. This time, it's going to be a home run, and it's not because it's a home run for other people now, so it's a home run for you. It's going to be different this time for you because you are an exception. God makes exceptions for his people. And let me tell you, David, now I gotta brush up. I ain't gonna stunt. I don't know David's whole life from the root to the tooth, from beginning to the end, but I do know that David messed up. He didn't kill some folk unjustly. He slept with somebody else's wife. You know what I'm saying? He had some bumps and some scrumps and some dips. Okay. However, God still chose him at the time of appointing the king, at the time when there were seven other people in front of him, at a time when people that were considered could have been considered whole, they could have been considered complete, they could have been considered the full Monty. There was one more person considered. There was one more person in mind. There was one more conversation that needed to be had. And that conversation, that exception changed everything. And God don't change, right? So if he did that for David, he can do it for us. God makes exceptions. And those exceptions work for our benefit to bring him glory. That's how it works. And it won't always feel good at the time. People might judge you because why do you get to, you know what I'm saying, XYZ? Why are you doing it this way? People might judge. Let me say something. A lot of times people ain't judging what you're doing at face value. So people aren't judging that I'm doing a podcast. Nobody cares. Like, right? Nobody's judging that you're doing photography and this is the type of portrait style that you have. Nobody's judging exactly at face value what's tea. What they're doing is assessing your faith. And that is what we have to be wary of. People will judge the faith level that you're operating in for whatever situation you're going up against because their faith level is not at that point. And they might be calling out, and rightfully so, that your faith level isn't fully there. You might be a little shaky about it, but all you need is a mustard seed, so you good. Don't let anybody unjustly come to you, tell you about your faith, and throw you off your game. Okay? Think about it. There are so many people that are in the Faith Hall of Fame. Hebrews 11, go read it. It's a bunch of names up in there, and your name is in that unspoken next chapter. If we was in the chapter Hebrews 11.5, our names are in there. You listen to this podcast right now, it's because you're trying to tap in, you're trying to garner something. God sees that. He knows it. He's like, oh, bet. I got you, right? And so you want to protect that. You want to protect your faith. And the mustard seed that you got, that's cool. Mustard seeds grow. Mustard seeds get watered, mustard seeds sprouts, and they grow and they provide nourishment to the bodies around them, period. So what you have is enough. Don't let nobody come to you and be like, okay, well, you started and stopped. Yeah, I started and stopped, and I'm going to start back again because that's where my faith is, where I can start and stop, but I believe enough in that God will make an exception for me that even though I wasn't consistent, he'll consistently show up for me, period. Okay? And so I'm telling y'all, God makes exceptions. We don't even have the full scope of the exceptions that he's made for us. I've talked previously about plenty of things, honestly, that I was like, this is gonna stop me. This is gonna stop me from doing anything of worth, anything of value. I have cursed people out. I've had an abortion. I have just been mean and nasty for no reason. I've been lazy. I have lied. Like, I've done so many things, and yet here I am today talking to y'all. Here I am planning more things, going for more. God's still speaking to me now more than he ever has in my life. Here I am, feeling more confident in who I am, where if you think about the things that I've done, I should feel less worthy, less confident. But that's not what God says about us. He makes exceptions for us because of Jesus. Jesus has taken the worst of the worst that we'll ever do, that we've ever done. And it's done, it's finished, it's handled. And so, because of that, everything that we're walking through now, there is a asterisk attached to it. There's a little clause that's like, oh, this one of my kids, we good. That's handled. We can move forward. It's all straight. It's been paid for already. There's an exception. But you have to believe in it in order to operate in it, in order to receive it. You have to believe that God will make an exception for you, for your family, for your situation, for your boyfriend, your girlfriend, for your husband or your wife if you're married, for your friend group. Everybody else's friends be bickering and arguing, but for us, we're going to have transparency that doesn't tear each other down. We're going to have a space where all of us can show up as our authentic selves, and that's accepted. Like there's an exception to our group that don't gotta be how everybody else do it, but this what we're gonna do. You know what I mean? Everybody else says that when they do it fast, they fall off. But for me, I'm going to see this thing throughout to the end. I'm an exception. Everybody else, they have a religious practice and it actually makes them tear people down. They don't build people up with the fruit of the spirit. They don't do that. But for me, I'm an exception to that. I'm going to shine with God and for God, for his people. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a little bit different. That's y'all. But as for me, this is how I'm going to show up. You have to say that to yourself. You have to write it down to yourself. You have to read the word, and it reminds you of plenty of exceptions that God has made. And he does it for his children. He does it for those who believe in him. He does it for those who are walking by faith. He does it for those who didn't expect it, right? Plenty of people thought they were going to die and they didn't die. They actually were provided for. You think about the children of Israel. They were like, it's over. We're dead. And then now food's falling out the sky. It's like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Exception. Because I got to go to Trader Joe's to get mine. They were the exception to the rule. And there's an exception with your name on it that is waiting for you to realize you don't got to stand in the same line as everybody else to get your blessing. I'm telling you, I'm telling me, God is the God of exceptions. And there's an exception specifically marked for you. I hope this has helped y'all. It really, really, really was just heavy on my heart yesterday that God makes exceptions for us. He makes exceptions for me. And so the power tool for this week is to ask God, what rule, what order am I going in? What line am I standing in that you're like, babe, you get the fast pass. You get to go to the front. You're an exception. Ask God, what area is your fast pass in? Like, low key, like just ask him just like that. Like, if you're at Six Flags, there's different rides. You got the fast pass. Boom. Okay. Am I at the Batman and I can get to go to the front? Let me know. So for me, again, think about the merch. It's like, am I tripping about so and so? What's available to me? That's my exception. Make it plain so I get it. I'm for real. Like, I think sometimes we also be worried about when we ask certain things, it's gonna come to us in a religious way. Just be like, yo, keep it real with me. What's T? Like, help me to really see what you're talking about because I don't want to miss what you're talking about. And so, as you're lifting that prayer up, ask God to make it practical, like real deal. What is your fast pass? Where is it at? How can you activate it? Should you be using it now? Let me know. Like, on the reveal, the fast pass I'm supposed to be using now, right? Because that is what's possibly holding me up, and I want to work within your will. So, not even trying to be on some like super church girl, you know what I mean? But just like, yeah, God, you got the answer and I need the response. So let me know. But he's here for you. He wants to reveal it to you and he is working with you always. So I hope this has helped you guys. It has helped me. And I want to keep this train rolling. First of all, oh my God, I want to thank each and every person. Last week, y'all, 100th episode of Power and Prose, 10K downloads. And I felt so much love from the community. I felt so much love from each and every cool kid adjacents, those who were just stopping by on the Instagram page because people were reposting and responding. I just wanted to say thank y'all because it is no small milestone. That's why I had the little rosé, honey, because I was like, wait, this is really a moment and I wanted to capture it. I want to be able to look back on it and be reminded that that was even an exception for me. Again, like I said, there are some folks that just haven't made it to that point, or there's just been mental blocks that have stopped them. And so to be able to pour out, to be able to be transparently sharing every week, to up the ante at work. Like I said, got promoted at work. There's more responsibility at work. My team is a little bit smaller than my last team, but then adding more recording dates and then the YouTube and all of those things. Some people was like, yo, I can't handle all this. And sometimes, honestly, I feel that way. But it's what has been helping me is knowing that God makes exceptions for me. He's put this on my plate because there's an asterisk by my name. He's like, oh, she's going to be able to handle this because I've endowed for her to be able to do that. And so, it's just, I'm thankful to y'all for celebrating that moment with me, okay? Because it was indeed a moment. And here we are, episode 101, still kicking in this thing. And so if you are new to the show because the 100th episode sparked you that you want to be a cool kid, welcome. And if you are OG, what's good? Be sure that you are plugged into the Prose and Praise Pages newsletter. That is where I share extra little tidbits that I have throughout the week. Like I said, I shared that sermon that I referenced in this episode. There, books that I'm reading, and many just little devotionals and inspiration to help you guys continue throughout your week in power. So be sure that you plug into that via the show notes. And I want to hear from y'all. I want to know how y'all are feeling. Get a little post check. And if there are any guests that you're like, yo, you need to talk to this person on the show, let your girl know. You can send me an email at powerandprose@gmail.com. Remember to profess your power, and that's power and prose. Bye.